Hi, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. Today is a very special show. We have Myra LaSalle Kaplan with us. And not only is she a leader who's going to tell us about her leadership journey, but she is my best friend. My other co hosts, Rebecca Tuttle and Peter Blakely, are on vacation. So Myra and I get to chat it up. Two girlfriends reflecting back on how they became leaders and why they continue in this role. So grab a cup of coffee and join us for what's going to be an exciting 30-minute conversation about where it all began.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Time with Masterminds. My name is Peter Blakely, and I'm the founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I'm Rebecca Tuttle, founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good.
Hi. Yay, that worked smoothly. For those of you who don't know this, I'll give you a little insight. I never pressed that button to have the jingle play, and this is the first time, and it worked. Myra, how are you?
I'm good. You did a great job. Because don't ask me to do it. I told you I'm not techie at all. I could barely do this.
How untechy. But Myra, you put that background behind you and then inspired me to put the same background. So one, it feels like we're together in the same room, but two, Absolutely. You figured that out all by yourself.
There's certain things I can do and certain things I cannot do. This was easy for me. How are you? Thank you for having me on your show. This is my third time on your show. I love it.
Oh my God. Yes. We are moving toward having consistent guests. And you are definitely one of them. You are one of our most loyal viewers. We have a handful of them who come and watch us every week, and we say hi. We also say hi to our listeners in Australia who are listening to us via podcast, via radio station. And if you are joining us, please put your name in the comments and tell us where you're from, because we love to hear. We get listeners and viewers from everywhere across the world. So it's really always nice and exciting. But let me introduce you in the topic of the show, because I am excited. So Coffee Time with Masterminds is intended to be a 30-minute conversation for and by and of leaders of mission-based organizations. And what we want to do is have conversations about leading through complexity. And we do that every week, and we have loads of material. And sometimes we have to stretch out the material because there's so much to talk about. Then we invite guests to come and join us. But what we have not done is a reflection show on how does one become a leader, right? And for some of us, it just happens on us. And for others, we work toward leadership. And so I thought it would be a good show to have, since our co-hosts are both on vacation. Rebecca and Peter, I'm sure you're watching, and I am hoping you're having a wonderful time off. And I thought it'd be great for us to talk about what drove us to where we are today, because another unique thing is that you and I have known each other since before we were leaders. Isn't that great?
19 and 21.
Yes, we were 19 and 21 years old. So we've only known each other about 6 years.
That's right, because I'm not a day past 25. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. 25 is a year I could repeat and repeat.
You stick to it. But I'll tell you, when I met you, you were starting, I think you were beginning in the schools. You served some time in the private sector, and then you were starting your career in the schools. And you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but today you are the Director of Student Services for Queens South in New York City with the Department of Education, or the Board of Education. And so we're going to talk about that journey. But when you and I met, I was also not a leader. I was just entering the corporate world. And we were young. I was 19 and starting my first office job. And I fell in love. I knew whatever I wanted to do, it had to be in an office. So let's talk about you. Myra, tell us how you started in the educational system, or did your leadership start in the private sector? Where would you name the beginning of that?
So when we met, I was working for the corporate world and I was customer service rep, and then I became customer service manager. So the leadership started there, never planned. It just fell into my hand and they promoted me, different management. So they promoted me to customer service manager. And then of course, the company went belly up and I had to find another job, right? Like I'm sure most people did back in the early 90s. So I got a job at the DOE. I was very young. I was
Department of
20,
Education.
Department of Education. I was 23. Starting out as a teacher and just went up the channels. Education was not my first career choice, but it sort of fell in my lap, and I fell in love with the kids, and just watching them learn and grow. And I knew that like one of the things that well, we all know science was not my forte, and one of the things that Cindy taught me in college was how to study for science tests. Right? I knew I wasn't going to use science forever because I wasn't going to become a doctor, but I needed to pass biology, right, to graduate college.
Yeah.
So, and you taught me that. So I remember you being so happy whenever I would learn something. So when I was teaching kids and they were learning, that is the pivotal moment of a teacher. Like when kids are learning something, they're like, wow. I was like, oh God, they got it. They understood it, right? Like that's the major part. But and then I just went through the channels. I became a dean, a grade advisor, coordinator, assistant principal, and which led me to this position now that I have as a director of student services for the city. So it's just something, but that was planned. In other words, for me to become a leader was planned within the Department of Education because I went through the proper channels. You have to get a specific license for that. So you had to go to get another master's for that. And so you got to go through the channel. So I did the whole thing. I finished everything like 2003, 2004. I didn't become a leader till 2006. I wanted that whole licensing, the fact that I had accomplished that to really marinate, right? Like, is this really what I want? Do I really want to stay in the classroom? Do I want to leave the classroom? And then after 18 years of teaching, I decided that, yeah, I was ready to leave the classroom and just do something else, And that's what I did. So as of 2006, I've been a leader.
So what was it? What was it like in the very beginning? So you're in the private sector and you said it came upon your lap, which to me translates into you probably didn't have any training. And now you're leading. What was that like?
Well, no training for the customer service manager part, right? Because that you just, they know you, and it's like with a little bit of everything, because it happens in the Department of Education too. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I shouldn't be saying that, right? We're live. But I said it anyway.
We're gonna keep going.
I said it anyway, right? But that's what happens in the corporate world, Sometimes it's who you know. And so it fell into my lap, and I knew that I liked it. I knew I liked to make the decisions. I knew that I liked when someone said to me, can I do this, right? I wasn't arrogant about it, but I knew that if I knew the answer, to me, it was teaching also. And I didn't know that was going to be my calling, the teaching part, but it was the teaching to someone something to do it correctly,
Yeah. So the teaching, I'm going to write this in the comments because I love this. The teaching is what inspired your leadership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Helping others learn.
Yeah, I am producer and co-host and also a guest on the show. So I'm doing it all. I'm gonna make Rebecca so proud, I swear. So
I'm sure they're very proud of you.
Oh, thank you. So, your desire and your enthusiasm to teach others and help them learn is what inspires your leadership. Is that a fair assessment?
It is a fair assessment, even till today. When I'm teaching teachers how to de-escalate students, right, in behavioral crisis, or when I'm teaching teachers to really take a look at themselves, right, that emotional competence piece that many of us don't have, or many of us don't practice every day, so we get into trouble. Um,
Mhm.
that piece, when teachers, at the end of my training, it's a 4-day training all day. At the end of that training, when someone comes up to me and says, "This has changed my life," I knew that what I was doing, I knew that what I
Mm,
did got to them, and I always tell them that what I train is not a magic pill, right? Because you have to be coachable, right? You have to want to
yeah.
learn, and you have to want to receive something. But those who receive it and those who are coachable are so successful after my trainings, and that makes me proud.
That's amazing. And so, although your progression in the Department of Education was planned, did you receive any leadership training or management training or coaching or mentoring before
I
you
did.
started being responsible for people's lives?
I did. So I like to think that I've had a lot of directors who have had an impact on my leadership style, on how I make decisions. I mean, we all have our own individual personalities, and God knows I have a really strong personality. You know this of me. But I one of my principals, I think the last principal that I worked for, he really inspired me because even though he was really eccentric and I loved him, um, he really loved the kids. And I knew that I wanted to take that piece from him, that empathy that he had for children, and even the
Mm.
empathy that he had for staff. Even when it was funny because a couple of coworkers and I, we always have a joke. Like he would say, "The consequences are going to be horrific," and then you go and you butter him up, and you're like, "Oh," he'll be like, "Okay, go, 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 go," right? So that piece, he would never really give you any consequences. But that piece I knew I wanted to take from him, but I also learned what I didn't want to take from him. And
Mm.
that's the piece, right, that you have to really be prepared to not just follow someone who's mentoring you, but really take both pieces, what you don't want it to look like and what you want to take. And
Oh
so
my
I
God.
think that I had a combination of both, that I was able to make myself my own leader, and like have my own leadership style, right? And that's not to say that people now who either work under me or people who I train don't may not like some of my leadership styles, but I think 30 years within the system, I've earned the right to keep my leadership style. And unfortunately, my personality says, if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, use it.
Yes, and so we do get to that point. Definitely, I can identify with that. But you're oh my God, you have so many wonderful nuggets here. So one, you also mentioned enjoying decision making, and so tell us a little bit about how do you make decisions? Do you have tools? Do you have a framework that you follow? How do you make decisions as a leader?
Yeah,
As a leader, it may be different from
yeah.
your personal life.
Yeah, well, within the Department of Education, there's certain, regulations that we have to follow, and I base my decisions on certain regulations. Do we kind of curve it a little bit? Sometimes. Listen, it's all about, I always tell people that it's always about building relationships. I have 151 principals. I know all of them, but I'm really close to 30 principals. I have relationships with 75 of them. And then the other 50 fall in the category where I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to support you. You may not like my recommendation. I can't tell you what to do because you're your own leader of your own school. But here's what I recommend you to do because I think this would be the best outcome. You don't have to
Mm.
try it my way first. Try it your way. And then if it doesn't work your way, you can say, well, you know what? Maybe Miss Kaplan does have maybe she does have, maybe she's onto something, right? Let me try it her way. And if it works, it works. That's not to say that it's not going to work. It may not work, but try it, right? And I think that's the piece that I try to get them to see, that, you know, it's okay to say, I don't know something. A lot of times when we become leaders, we don't want to say that.
Oh my God. Yes.
We don't want to
Yes.
say, I don't know
Cannot even
this, I don't know that. And we don't dare to ask questions because we
Yep.
think that asking questions is a weakness. It really isn't a weakness. If you don't know the answer to something, ask the question. Because then when you
Yeah.
know the answer, you're going to get it right. And I
Yeah.
always teach people it's okay to say, I don't know this. Feel
Yeah.
comfortable in that piece. Because if you're not comfortable in that piece, you're never going to allow yourself the opportunity for good experiences, for bad experiences, because all the experiences are learning experiences.
Learning experiences. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll type that in when I have a second. I love that sentence. And so your decision making framework starts with following protocol and regulations because you are also part of a larger institution, which is why we've
Correct.
always loved your voice, right? So this show is targeted toward more toward mission based, community based
Hmm.
nonprofit organizations. Schools are definitely nonprofit organizations, but they're also institutions and they're highly regulated, thankfully, right? Because our children are in the building. And so tell us a little bit about the human aspect of leadership and how you had to understand and bring that into your leadership because that's the bigger part. There are rules you have to follow, but you're also leading human beings. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I think that that is different and that looks different for everyone.
Hmm.
Um, there are some people who, I can only speak for myself. So let me just start by saying that I have a really big piece of empathy. I know how to empathize with people, and it's different than sympathizing, right? Because sympathy
Yes.
comes from loss, right? Empathy
Right.
comes from understanding or trying to understand someone's pain. That's very
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
I think that I'm a very I'm very big on just helping calm people down, right? I walk into a school, principals,
Mhm.
maybe very upset, quick example, I had two drownings, right? Principal. And all I did was grab the principal's hand and hugged her.
Mhm.
She didn't have to tell me anything. That's all she
Right.
had to do. So I told everybody they needed to leave her office because what happens is her office gets bombarded, right? I said, okay, everybody
Yeah.
out. I need to speak to her by myself. And I didn't speak to her, just held her hand and hugged her, let her get it out.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that says a lot about me, right? In terms of being able to get that human side, right? Yeah. And again, it comes down to building relationships. I couldn't have done that had I not had a relationship with her. And she's fairly a new principal, but like I said, she's coachable. So because she's
Mm.
coachable and because she's willing to learn, she's new, she doesn't know everything. So she's got to get from every single angle, and there are many things that people are telling her. You got the NYPD telling her what to do something, and their mentality is completely different than our
Sure.
mentality, right? Not that they don't empathize, right? Not that they don't have good people in the NYPD, but it's still it's still a different lens. They're looking at it through a different lens. And so just being able to touch someone, right? And that we missed for 2 years, right? But that piece of touching someone, just letting them know that you're there with them, just really brings that human touch. Um, and I personally think once you have that, you can pretty much tell anybody what to do and they'll do it. Once they
Yeah.
feel that aura from you, you know?
I love that. I love that. And just to backtrack a little bit about what you do as a director of student services, you manage crisis. So when you talked about drowning, when a school has a crisis such as a death, you and your team are on site to manage that. And
Correct.
so, and so I just want to let our viewers and our listeners understand that and put that into context. And so what you have there is a leader, you with your team going into a place that already has a leader, right? And
Correct.
so negotiating that authority and power can get complicated. But what I hear you saying is that through empathy and respect and understanding that this principle is very human, that you are able to come in and gain some authority and take over as you start to settle down all the moving parts that are happening. Am I interpreting
Correct.
that correctly? Okay.
Correct, absolutely. Because my job
Yeah.
is a little logistic, right? My job is about, what you have to do, what you have to set, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I can't come in guns blazing saying that. Well, you need a room for this, you
Right.
need a room for that, I need to come in and say, "How are you?" I need to come in and say, "Take a moment. I'm in no
Yeah.
rush. I'm not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm here all day for you, right?" So those are the things that really helps them, I think, as leaders, right? Because they also have to proceed and have to tell she has to tell or he has to tell their constituents what they have to do, you know,
Yeah.
and their
Yes.
staff what they have to do. Now, is every principal like that? No. I had another principal who was doing it her way.
Yep.
And it was a debacle only because she didn't want feedback. And that has a lot
Mm.
to do with
Yeah.
really being in her own feelings and processing her own grief and excuse me, and the sadness of what just had happened in her building. People react to it differently. And I always tell people grief is different. Like when my team came in, they were like, "Well, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just be here?" I said, "Yeah, for now, you're just going to be here because she doesn't want you right now. We got to get her to want us. And
Yeah.
once she sees what we know how to do, she's going to want us, right? But I need to be able to do that. You can't do that, right? Because you don't know her, right? And I know her, so I have to go in very slowly, right? I have to go in little by little, right? Just to push myself
Yeah.
through so that she could see that there's another lens that's there, that there's support. We're not there to tell her what to do, we're there to support her. And sometimes people confuse that. And
And
sometimes people
so,
get involved in the power struggle, right? This is my building, I'm going to do it my way, blah, 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 right? Hey, that's cool.
and we see that in leaders everywhere, right? This is my department or this is my team. And so let's move this forward. So you didn't stop at your first promotion. You have continuously sought to move your way up. What have been some of the lessons you've learned along the way that you didn't know maybe in the previous role that you've learned? So one, you said being able to admit that you don't know something. That's huge. Let me tell you something. That tells me the difference between a new leader and an experienced leader. An experienced leader would be the first to tell you, I don't know. A new leader would try to fumble their way through. What are some other
Correct.
lessons?
Um, just being able to take a step back, um,
Mm,
just being able to recognize this particular thing is not my forte. I don't think I
yeah,
can take leadership in that. I think I have to assign that to somebody. I think I have to
yeah,
look at my team and say, you know what? He has the gift of gab. He's going to be able to do that. And just
yeah,
say, hey, you know what? He's taking point on this, not me. I said I'll be here if you need me, right? Right?
right.
But he's gonna take point on it. So you're gonna make communication is gonna be between you and him. And you have to recognize that that doesn't come easy because I remember being a AP and I would say to myself, AP is an assistant principal, and I say to
Thank you.
myself, you know what? I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna do it all because no one's gonna do it like me. And if they do it wrong, I'm gonna get in trouble. And da, 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 da. But by
And then you get
year
fired.
exactly. But by year 3, I remember
Oh
one
my
of my
God.
deans. She entered something into the system and she entered it incorrectly. And year one, I would have said, oh my God, catastrophe. What am I going to do? Year three, I was like, it's okay. I'll take the fall for it. No problem.
Yeah.
I said, you
There
know
you go.
what? Now you know how to do it right. You won't make that
Yeah.
same mistake twice. And she was like, oh my God, you're not upset? I said, no. I said, we have
Yep.
to, here's another good line for you. We have to accept the things we cannot change.
Yeah. Let me write that down. Yeah.
Yep. We have to accept the things we cannot change. And she was just so surprised. And I like to think that they all learned a little bit from me, not all. I had a really strong dean. I had a dean who was a nurturer. And I had a new dean
Mm.
who was trying to be like a little tough and a little nurturer, right? And you have to sort of start to see what side you're going to lean on. You're either going to be a disciplinarian or you're either going to be a nurturer. You can't be both. You can't be
Yeah.
both, you know?
Yeah. Oh, we gotta here, let me put this up. I think I can figure that out.
Okay.
We got a message from Rebecca who's on the road. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Myra, you
Oh,
are a great leader. Thank you for sharing insight into leadership. You've left us with some great takeaways.
thank
Yes,
you.
you have. And
Thank you. Thank you.
so when you meet new leaders, which you do all the time because you're training, and they start and they're already exhausted because things have gotten, I mean, you've been on this journey for 30 years because you started when you were 5, and
Basically. I love it.
years ago our problems were a lot simpler,
Yes,
and
they
now
were.
they're complex. And so, my audio is slowing down, so I'm going to stop moving. What do you tell new leaders today?
I tell new leaders to don't do, mm, just don't do something to do it. Do something to make a difference.
Oh, I love that, Myra.
You
Do
got to make a
something.
difference in what you do. You have to do something to make a difference. Even if it's a difference in your life, you'd be surprised how many people come back to you and say, what you said that day in that
Yeah.
room back in March of 2021, I never forgot that. And those are the things that continue to inspire me to continue to do what I do, right? Because I know I'm
Yeah.
making a difference. I know, like, before I was making a difference in student lives, and now I try to make a difference in teacher lives because I want them. Here's how I can also say it really quickly. I learned how to replicate myself. Not
Mm.
everybody could do that, right? You want to be able to replicate yourself because you're not gonna there's not 100 of you. And so if
Right.
you get it right, replicate yourself, share it, teach it, don't hold on to it. Share it with the world
Yeah.
because you want
Share
people
that
to continue to
knowledge.
do good. You want people to continue to
Yeah.
do good by students, by staff, by everyone, right? This
Share
has
that
worked.
knowledge. I love
This
that.
works. Yes, this work. You can do this work at home. I mean, you can do this with your
Yeah.
significant other. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. And
when I look at my husband and I look at him and I know that he's a little angry and I just say, and I just stay quiet or I do whatever I have to do, he'll say, "You're kind of doing that training on me, huh?" He knows exactly what I'm doing, right? He knows
yeah.
exactly what I'm doing, but it
Oh, I
works.
love it.
It works.
Believe it or not, Myra, we have 45 seconds left. This is crazy.
Wow.
Doesn't the time go so fast?
I
But
know.
what's in the future for you? Are you going to continue? Do you continue to look toward leadership growth? Like, does this have a destination, or are you still well into your journey?
Um, I am into my journey. a little sneak peek. I did complete a survey for principalship, just a different angle of leaders going from leading 151 schools to just leading one. How does that feel? I've never done that. I don't know if that'll happen. If it does, it does. And if it doesn't, I am happy doing what I'm doing because I'm teaching people.
Yeah, and you're making a huge difference, a huge difference. Well, we are at the end of our show, and like it happens in most of our shows, we could continue talking. And so we will definitely have you back. You will continue to be our guest throughout our time here. But I want to wish you and our viewers a wonderful weekend. And thank you, Myra, so much for your nuggets of wisdom.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Always. Bye-bye.